time. One more time. One more time. We're gonna celebrate. Oh yeah, alright. Don't stop the dancing. One more time. We're gonna celebrate. Oh yeah, alright. Don't stop the dancing. One more time. We're gonna celebrate. Oh yeah, alright. Don't stop the dancing. One more time. We're gonna celebrate. Oh yeah. One more time. One more time, we're gonna celebrate. Oh yeah, alright. Don't stop the dancing. One more time, we're gonna celebrate. Oh yeah, don't stop the dancing. One more time. You know I'm just feeling celebration tonight. Celebrate. Don't wait too late. No, we don't stop. You can't stop. We're gonna celebrate. One more time. One more time. One more time. A celebration. You know we're gonna do it right tonight. Hey, just feel it. Music's got me
Blah, blah. Give me a quick minute, but welcome in. Hopefully all are having an amazing evening, morning, afternoon, everything else in between. Today, I don't know what we're doing, but we have an amazing person here. We have TheBlindProphet, amazing person, amazing dancer from the VR dance group. Right? VR dance group, the Faceless.
Yes.
I wouldn't say we're a VR dance group, but yeah.
Yeah. If you want to give a better introduction, please do so, because I'm pretty ass at this.
You're totally fine. So, the Faceless is actually like a social group that runs a free open source like information lecture hall where we do classes and interviews, podcasts, and Q&As with different creators from the industry and industry professionals and people that have created different dance styles, etc. But also DJing and art and you name it, right? So we have classes from everything from like coding to Blender to dance to vocal lessons, etc.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So the first question I have is, first of all, why choose the username TheBlindProphet?
Wow, starting off
I mean,
strong.
I know that's like the
That's super sad.
So anyways, would you like to be Chuck-cooned by a question?
Was it that type of question? It was simple for me. I'm sorry.
I don't know. Like, if you start off with like the origin story, like we gotta know everything. We gotta start from the beginning, right?
I'm sorry.
and stuff, right? So, I used that for that. So back in original Xbox days and earlier like computer gaming and stuff.
Oh god, the Xbox days.
So it's based off of Tiresias from the Odyssey.
Oh.
So the idea, I like the idea of the oxymoron of a blind person with foresight. You know what I mean? And it harkens back to the idea of like giving up something to gain something. So kind of like even there's all sorts of stories of this, but you have like Odin, for instance, that gave up his eye in order to have foresight and stuff, right? Like,
Yeah.
so it's that type of thing. So that's kind of where that came from. Nothing too crazy, but I guess it does age me quite a bit.
No,
Honestly, when
we're
you say
all
the Xbox days, that's enough to know that you were basically part of the childhood.
Yeah, I remember the first Xbox multiplayer game, right, online and stuff, right? Like,
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And was it Halo? Wait,
no, before Halo
No.
2, there was some other ones. You had there was a mech game.
huh?
That was
I don't know what's it called. I feel like I think there was another one as well.
I forget what it's called. It may have been
Metronome?
Mech
No.
Warrior or something. I don't know.
It was
It
Metronome
was
as well.
yeah. So there was a few before, and then that was, I think the mech one was the first one even to have like a somewhat lobby. Halo 2 was the first to do like the lobbies that we have now, right? But
Yeah.
like, where you have like that pre-game lobby and after-game lobby thing, right? Everyone does, right? Like I think Battlefield and everyone now do that type of thing. Call of Duty and. But anyways, yeah, no. So it was way back when. Holy crap!
It's been 84 long years.
it feels like it. I mean, it's what over 20-something years ago. So, yeah.
I was still in the Nintendo era of everything, so all I had was a Nintendo 64, GameCube. Never got
Nintendo 64 was great though.
dude, it was
Back when we had
amazing.
the LAN parties where we'd have,
Oh my
and even
God,
before
LAN
the
parties.
LAN parties, like just the N64 with a split screen. Someone's
Yeah.
parents would have like a big screen TV that was this giant like 1,000-pound box, and
Oh my god.
it'd be
Oh.
split into like a bunch of different screens, and we'd play like GoldenEye. Yes, GoldenEye 64. Those were the days.
Oh my god.
I used to play that because I was the poor kid who couldn't afford video games. I used to go to my cousin's house and he would let me play GoldenEye on his TV. I was like, sweet.
Dude, it was just me and my brothers, and then all we'd do, because we didn't have very much games either. All we did was play Smash Brothers, and Pokemon Stadium.
Oh my god, Pokemon. Pokemon Stadium was.
I never
brilliant.
got to play Pokemon Stadium, unfortunately, because my cousins weren't really into Pokemon. So,
How dare.
like, yeah.
Dude, the mini games on that, oh, we're so nostalgic. So nostalgic. We're old.
Okay, I feel left out now.
yeah, youngin over here.
I've done nothing wrong.
All right. Sorry, go ahead. Oh, geez.
Oh no, no
Oh.
one.
Oh,
You know what?
All right.
Okay.
I'll go. So, I've known Blind for quite a while because they were my first mentor in dance and VR. But for those who don't know in the audience, how did you get started in animation style dance, and can you explain what animation style dance is to our viewers?
Yeah. So funny funny enough, like, so I'll actually end up aging myself even more in dance than I normally
I'm so
do.
sorry.
So
Chris, how could you?
it's fine. This is gonna be a, oh my gosh, Blind Prophet is old. So, you know, some people have used the term OG, and I'm like, nah, I wouldn't consider myself like one of the original like people from my styles, but you know, I'm definitely an old guy.
Oh, you're not
So
that old.
I guess I'm in my 40s.
Debatable.
So funny enough, I'm the age that the OGs were when I started learning from the OGs, right? So like
Trying to be hip,
Circle.
trying to
you
be hip
know,
with the kid.
like yeah, so when I got into dance, so we didn't call it animation dance, number one, right? So when I first got into dance, was way before animation dance, but I think the first animator, what some people might call an animator nowadays, was Pakalika, was like the first one that I'd really seen. He's from a group called the Cottonmouth Kings. Rest in peace. So he was the first one I seen. This was, I want to say, 99-ish. There's a music video that came out called Bump by the Cottonmouth Kings. And like halfway through the music video, it's like the most powerful and feared man in the music industry. And then like he does like a weird like waving, he does like a tick walk and all this other stuff, and I was like, that is so freaking awesome. I'd always been into dance before, right? Obviously I grew up on Michael Jackson, right? I'm an 80s kid, right? I was born in the early 80s, so like I grew up on Michael Jackson and I always loved to dance, right? But like this was the first time where I like started really focusing on something specific, right? And so I got into trying to recreate it, but I lived in the middle of nowhere, you know what I mean? Like central US at the time in the late 90s. So, you know, and there wasn't YouTube or any of these other things that everybody has, right?
Yeah.
Like, so if you wanted to learn to dance, like, you know, especially for me and a lot of us, like we would watch music videos or other things and be like, oh, that looks really cool. And then we just sit there and try to, how can I try to create that type of feel in what I'm doing, right? So technically that's when I first got into it, right? Was the late 90s. And then like when I was in Iraq in 2003 to 2005, I had a Cottonmouth King DVD that had like a bunch of their music videos, and I used to watch his music videos and stuff. And so when I'd be in, for instance, like when I'd be in the guard tower and one of the facilities I worked at when I was in Iraq, I'd be up there in the guard tower, like watching the the music video and just like sitting there and on a 12 to 18 hour shift, just practicing and stuff and fooling around, right? And so that would have been early 2000s. But as far as like when I first got into like the seriousness of it, learning from the OGs and learning from all that stuff and taking classes and stuff, my dance journey has been kind of crazy. I started, funny enough, when I first started taking classes, it was for house dance and breaking. This would have been in like 2006, 2007-ish. And then I got into popping, which is at the time, if you're doing animation style, you're a popper, right? It's all popping style. It's under the umbrella of popping.
Yeah.
And so that's you know, I got into that when I lived in the UK, because I was stationed out in the UK with the military at the time. And so yeah, that's it was around 2007 when I started getting into more serious stuff and made friends with one of my mentors and OGs, Wave-O-Matic, through Facebook. Which
Facebook.
at the time, I mean, now it's like a bunch of old people and stuff. I barely ever use Facebook, but like at the time, that was still, you know, a relatively newer thing, and like it was really good for reaching out to people. The pre-Discord, before Discord, right?
Yeah.
The before
Wasn't-
times.
Isn't before Discord considered Facebook and Skype?
Facebook and Skype, yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Facebook and Skype. Facebook Messenger was like, and we had Yahoo Messenger as well, right? Yahoo Messenger was still a thing at that time as well.
I grew up on like MSN.
That
Well after the AIM days. AOL Instant Messenger. Oosh.
I feel old.
those
Excuse
But-
me?
those are
Yeah,
the
no, and so
days.
animation, we didn't really start calling it animation dance, right? Funny enough, like, so I moved to LA in like 2011 is when I moved there. And even then, we didn't really call it animation dance. Like, what started happening was so one of my homies, Marquise Scott, also known as Nonstop. A lot of people will recognize their video on YouTube if they look it up, right? So he's probably the first one I can think of where it started maneuvering into people seeing it as a different thing. He had a video called Pumped Up Kicks.
Oh,
And so that's when it started being called dubstep dancing, right? Because dubstep was kind of big at the time, right? I'll say that it's still, and some people might hate me, but like I'll say that it's still popping. It's just instead of popping to funk music or electro music or whatever, it's just an evolution of the music that culture is dancing to. The newest part of that culture of popping and everything is dancing to, right? And so they kept trying to separate us and other us at the time, because if you're not doing, at the time it was like you're either doing electric boogaloo style of popping or you aren't popping, right? And so it was like you gotta pop to funk music, right? And I was like, well, that's cool for y'all, and there's nothing wrong with anyone that dances to whatever music they want to dance to, but like, my generation, we were more into like dubstep and electro music, EDM, IDM, drum and bass and stuff like that, and so that's what a lot of us were dancing to, right?
right.
But they started othering us and calling us dubstep dancers, and so somewhere between that, because at that time we were trying to fight to be recognized as poppers. We were like, no, we're just like you guys, right? We just dance to different music.
So you were like trying to fight back against the elitists that were trying to gatekeep, right?
Yeah, there was some gatekeeping going on. Not everyone was gatekeeping, but there was some gatekeeping going on, and we were kind of trying to fight the change in the terminology. And funny enough, somewhere along the way, the change ended up happening regardless. And now some people call themselves animation dancers and separate it. I will say that it's an evolution of a style, much like turfing is an evolution of Bay Area's boogaloo robot strutting, right? I will
Yes.
say that it's still under the umbrella. It's just an evolution of the dance. Jukin, for instance, is an evolution of gangster walking. So it's that same type of thing, right?
Yeah, for those who don't know, the robot dance that you guys see, it also falls under the umbrella term of animation style dance as well. Am I correct?
I will argue that some people will consider that to be, but I will say that robot dancing is its own dance. Robot style, puppet style, all that stuff. Now you can put it under animation if you want. I will say that if you're gonna put all these styles that had their own style under animation as an umbrella, we have to determine like what exactly is animation dance and what separates it, and you know what I mean. And so that's
Yeah.
something that people have tried debating and talking about for a long time, and some people have gotten super technical and nerdy with the terms, and I'm sorry to anyone that feels called out by that, right? I'll say like just dance and have fun. That's what it's meant to be ultimately, right? And like I feel like the need to classify and define things, that's a very humanistic thing, right? Humans have this need to define and put things in boxes, right? But something that started as a street dance, right? This is my personal belief, and people can have their own beliefs, right? But my personal belief is that something that started as a street dance was all about individuality, right? And
Yeah.
developing your own style. And so when you start putting things in boxes, right, you start running into this thing like in ballet or studio type dances where they got to box it and you got to do this way, and those dances, a lot of those dances were meant to be able to be like reproducible, and there's like a perfection in the lines and all that stuff, whereas in street dance it's not necessarily about being perfect. It's about being an individual and finding yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so the perfection to me, if things are way too technical and overly perfect, right, and you're just focusing on technique only, right, you become robotic and lose your humanity in your dance, right? And so when something is just about technique and it no longer is about the feel and expression, right? And you start to limit yourself. To me, you start to move away from dance into something different, and that's fine, right? But if you're doing animation techniques only and you're not dancing, then you're animating, sure, right? But a mime is miming. But to be doing a mime dance, they got to be dancing. A robot, or if you're doing robotics, right? You're acting as a robot, so that's robotic acting, right? Or mimery, right? But is it dance? I will say that unless you're dancing and expressing the music and stuff like that, I will say that there has to be a line there, right? Just like if you look at breakers and breaking, right? There's a lot of acrobatics that are done nowadays and all that stuff, and that's really cool. But if you focus too much on the acrobatics and you don't have dancing, the top rock, the up rock, the down rock, all that other stuff, right? The actual like footwork and the dance to it, right? And all you're doing is windmills and shit like that. What's the difference between you and someone doing gymnastics to music?
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think Ejo Wilson, who we did have a Q&A with, he's like the person who brought dance to Japan, right? Like he's the one who taught the Japanese house style dance.
Yes. Yes.
He put house, sorry, and he put it best when like I remember him saying dance is like painting the music with color, right? So if you're always in this box and you're using the same kind of like paints that you're given instead of trying to paint outside the lines and create something new, then it's the same overproduced stuff over and over again.
So with like,
Am I?
oh no, continue.
Oh no, I'm done. Go ahead, Kai.
So then with like acrobatics, right? With the b-boy stuff, right? So it shouldn't be that it's like the main type of thing. It should just be an accent of it, right?
Yeah.
Because I've been seeing
So-
that a
so-
lot.
Yeah, I've been working on this philosophy. Funny enough, it's built off the philosophy that Wave-O-Matic and Pakalika and a lot of the people that came before me passed down to me, and my interpretation and of it and the things that I've learned of it in my over 20 years doing it, right? And if you want, I can read this. It's something I'm going to be putting in a book and some stuff I'm working on. But I do
Yeah.
have.
Go
I
for
have,
it.
I have like
Book.
written this thing. Yeah. So I wrote, technique is what we drill. It's not the dance itself. On the streets, in the ciphers, in the spaces where rhythm is born, growth begins with repetition. We train foundations until they settle into our bones. We practice grooves, footwork, isolations, and textures until our muscles remember them without asking. The moment the body remembers, the spirit is finally free to forget.
Damn.
Because in street dance, technique is the doorway, not the destination. The beat invites us to step through that doorway into something greater, wilder, and deeply our own. Concepts are where dance truly breathes. They let us stretch what we've trained, bend it, flip it, distort it, and reshape it into something unrepeatable. Conceptual dancing is freedom, the permission to experiment, to connect technique with instinct, to explore the edges of who we are as individuals. Too much technique without curiosity turns a dancer into a machine. However, technique in service of imagination, that turns a dancer into a voice, a storyteller of the body. We drill foundations not to stay inside the box, but to understand it so deeply that it dissolves. When the box disappears, style becomes personal, movement becomes truth, identity becomes motion. This is the path of the dancer. Learn the rules, let them live in your body, then break them open, transform them, and dance as only you can. Because out here in the culture that birthed so many styles, the ultimate goal is not to look perfect. It is to look like yourself.
Damn.
Damn.
I like that actually.
I like that.
Yeah.
That was very profound.
And so I'm really making a push to try to get people to start thinking outside the box. And look, and if you're doing competitive dancing, right? And I'm going to enter a b-boy competition or
Yeah.
whatever, right? Like, and I will separate competition from battles because I do believe there's a distinction. Competitions are kind of more of a Hollywood type of trope. But in competitions where you got your judges or whatever, right? You're dancing for the judges. If you're trying to win a competition, right, then you're going to do what you think is going to win that competition. If you're entering a breaking competition, you're going to give them the XYZs of what you know what I mean, is going to quote unquote make you a breaker and stuff, right? And that's more dancing within the box. But I think as an individual and as a dancer, we should always focus on growth towards just freedom of expression and being ourselves, because ultimately we are all creating our own style of dance. If you look at the OGs back in the 70s, when some of these things were being created, each one has their own name, whether it's Boppin' Andre, Boppin' Ron, whether it's Robot Prince or all these other people, right? And each one has their own unique way of doing things. They have their own, each one has their own style. You can watch all these people and none of them dance the exact same. And I think that's important because each one can teach their own unique style, and that grows the ability, the paint set box, right? Your tools that you have, right? And the more tools we have, and it's the same with art, right? Like if everyone tries to paint exactly like Van Gogh, like you're as an artist, are you just recreating Van Gogh's paintings, or do you want to express yourself in your paintings? Show me a bit of you, right?
Mhm.
And so I think that's something that can get lost when you focus too much on technique.
Nice.
Yeah. I feel very educated.
It's very
I mean-
educational.
I mean, Blind, you also like studied in dance history too, if I recall
Yeah.
correctly. Yeah.
did.
Well, yeah, within school, and then also like some of the OGs consider me a historian because I've interviewed over 100 different OGs and talked at length about their history and their inspirations and a bunch of other stuff. So I've been very nerdy about learning about the history of all the different things for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So then, one weird thing. What is the difference between a battle and a competition? Well, because like you said, competition, you're dancing for the judges. So what is a battle then?
Battle, you're dancing for yourself. So in a battle that would take place within street dance, there wasn't judges, right? Like if we're
Uh-huh.
talking battle culture didn't really have judges. The judges were yourselves, right? Like I will say that there's been a point somewhere in the history. I could probably figure out exactly if I really took time to look into it. But there's a point somewhere in the history where instead of being able to recognize I won, I lost, and being able to admit when, hey, like, I ran out of material, or this person did this stuff, and it was just, quote unquote cooler than what I did, or whatever, right? We've gotten to a point within the culture where like it's competitions, and you need the three judges, and the three judges are judging on whatever their criteria is. Sometimes judges are very biased, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're in my crew and I'm judging you and I'm going to push you forward, or I like this thing better than that thing. Me and Chad Smith, the robot guy from the Step Up movies, back in like 2011, we had a long conversation about battle culture, and Chad was even talking about how, like, within we used to not differentiate battle culture from competition culture. I do think it's important to be able to distinguish that, because there is a difference between a battle where two people are just dancing and communicating back and forth, right? And where now we're dancing for judges and winning that way, right? I do think there's a big difference in that. That said, that type of culture and competitive culture, right? We're dancing in a box, because, like, if I just dance myself and dance for myself, and you just dance for yourself, who won? Well, if we both are experts in ourselves, right? When you compare Van Gogh to Leonardo da Vinci or someone else, right? Like, who's a better artist? That's purely going to be like a biased decision, no matter which way you go, right? Like, we can say, oh, well, we got to judge based on, well, this person's line work is better, or this person's, but, like, they're just doing they're doing their self-expression. So Van Gogh is the best Van Gogh. Leonardo da Vinci is the best Leonardo da Vinci, right? Like, and so when you start getting into the individualized perception of things, realistically, who is better than who always comes down to some sort of, I like this art better than this art.
It's sort of like you can't really compare the two, because, like, they both do their own kind of thing, but they're still
it's
in the same.
Yeah, it's like saying you can't compare apples to oranges. I mean, sure, we can compare apples to oranges, but which is better? I mean, realistically, it's going to be a personal decision.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Right? Like, when I judged the competitions that I judged, right? Like, as a judge, I'm going to have a point system to judge you, right? This is why I say competitions are a weird thing, right? Because, like, especially in an all styles thing, how do I compare a breaker to a popper, right? Well, I could be like, well, this breaker does this, and I'm judging the breaking on, are they doing these things? Are they doing these fundamentals? How are the lines? How's their execution? How are they hitting the beat? Or are they, stepping outside of the beat onto different levels of the track? Stuff like that. I can judge that, sure, right?
Yeah.
But, like, even that's going to be a personal thing, because, maybe they're not expressing certain parts of the song because those parts of the song aren't moving them, right? So, like, realistically, it does have to have some line of bias in competition, and sometimes it's going to be like, and when I say bias, I'm not saying bias for the sake of being biased, right? There are a lot of judges that try to be extremely fair, right? But there's always going to be some level of that. Now, how much of a level of that, but back in the day, like, battles were just like two people communicating in dance, right? And a lot of times when you look at the OGs, especially, or you look at, when I say OGs, I'm just talking about the older generation, or the 70s, 80s, and even sometimes 90s and early 2000s. A lot of times it'd be like, I ran out of things that I can say. My vocabulary isn't that extensive, so now I've ran out of vocabulary things, right? Once you start repeating what you're doing in dance, is the moment where you've ran out of vocabulary, right? And so you're expressing something with the same words, right? So you're just saying the same thing again now. And so it's the same with like a rap battle. If someone was in a rap battle and they started saying the exact same rap rhymes, right? At that point, you've lost the rap battle because you're saying the exact same thing. You're no longer saying something new.
You're no
And so if
longer
you think
unique.
of it in that terms, yeah, if you look at it in that way, then the second that you start repeating yourself in dance, you're no longer expressing something new. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so within battle culture back when, right? If you started repeating, you've lost the battle at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's the point where you're like, oh shit, I got to go back home. I got to practice more. I got to come up with some new stuff. Right. Or you see them do something, you're like, oh wow, that thing was crazy, and you're like, man, I gotta go. And that's how dance evolved back then. Was people would see someone do something that was unique to themselves, and then they'd go back to their house and be like, man, that was really dope. How'd they do that? And they'd try to recreate it, but they wouldn't know how it was created, and so they'd end up creating their own thing, trying to express that, right? Nowadays, you can watch a YouTube video and just replay it over and over and over again and try to perfect it and get the movement down perfect and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It takes something out of it a little bit. But that doesn't mean that I don't enjoy what people do nowadays. I think, anything that's done in service of growth and self-expression that people have fun with, right? I think is important. But at the end of the day, we're dancers and we dance to have fun and to express ourselves. And if you can't express yourself and you're not having fun with what you're doing, I would say that maybe we should look internally at what we're doing and make sure that what we're doing allows for us to express ourselves and have fun with what we're doing.
I get that.
Thanks.
Moist.
So, just so my friends and those who are new I see it are coming into the stream right now. Back to talking about the Faceless. I know that when I first joined, it seemed like it was a group that you started that could provide a safe place to learn different styles of dance for people of all levels. And now it's like the community center that teaches other classes, like you said before. What gave you the idea to want to like start that? And could you explain like how that came to be?
Yeah, we're going through all sorts of origin stories. My God. Chris with all the origin story questions. Holy cow.
I'm so sorry. I like to delve into people's lore.
Yeah.
I'm here trying to drive my Mecha's toy car and hitting into you, doing no damage, and then it's like, oh, look at you, and then Chris come here with Truck Coon.
I'm over here watching you spray down the top of solar panels and by the way, what's the origin of the universe and everything in it? So as far as the Faceless has been around for a lot longer than most people realize. Like as far as a Discord, we've been around for a particular amount of time. As far as, I think Discord, I started the Faceless in August of 2018, right? As far as Vrchat, the Faceless started, 2 or 3 years ago, right? 3 years ago. I don't even know anymore at this point. Time is it's so difficult keeping track of time nowadays, especially with all the stuff we got going on. There's been weeks where we've had like 28 events. Right?
Oh god, that's so much. Holy.
Insane. But as far as like what the Faceless started as, I was a streamer, right? And I started running the Faceless stuff for that. And the idea was to have a community based on, and I've been writing Faceless lore, funny enough, since like 2003, 2004.
Dang.
Which so the idea sprouted from the idea of having a community based on the individuals and who the individuals are versus the idea of sex or personal characteristics or stuff like that, right? male, female, age, any of that stuff, right? The idea was
Yeah.
to eliminate all that and focus on individuals for their personal contributions and that type of stuff. The turning of the Faceless into kind of the school and the idea, that concept that it became, funny enough, some people had approached me and were asking about, creating an environment, a safe environment where they could learn and stuff like that. At the time, it was some dancers, and so I modeled it off of a few principles. Number one, I when I first started learning dance, like specifically learning from a lot of the OGs, I also learned from a place called Homeland. It's a Homeland Cultural Arts Center in Long Beach, California. Homeland is where a lot of us mid schoolers, the people that learned in like the early 2000s into like even the 2010s, 2011s, 2012s, 2013s, a lot of us learned there, right? From a lot of the different OGs and stuff. Wave-O-Matic being there, Burst Rock, and tons of people, right? A lot of who's who. A lot of people you'd seen in the Step Up movies that do specific styles. There's quite a few of them that learn there and stuff like that. So that was kind of the place. And Homeland Cultural Arts Center had like dance, right? And so they taught dance, but it was like we would get together on like a Monday or Tuesday, and like it was a place where you could just session, right? Like there'd be a DJ playing music, and we'd all just be kind of hanging out, and someone might see someone doing some crumping or something, be like, hey, can you show me that, right? Or someone might see someone doing popping or breaking or whatever, and be like, hey, can you show me that? I'd like to learn that, right?
Mhm.
And everyone was kind of sharing with each other. And then classes started happening where like someone might teach a free locking class or a free class on this or whatever. And all the classes, the idea was everything was free, right? It was to share, right? And with it being in Long Beach, California, literally right on the edge of like MacArthur Park, right? It was a not so good area, right? And a lot of people that may have been, had we not had that place, been involved in things that maybe weren't the best for them, right?
Mhm.
And this is you'll if you talk to any street dancer, OG or otherwise, you'll realize this. Like it's been a way to keep away from bad things in life, whether that's drugs, gangs, etc. Right? And allows people a source to pursue dance or art as a career or everything. And so like they have that, but they also had language classes at Homeland, right? That cultural arts center, because it's in the city's cultural center, right? So there's culture classes and dance classes and all these different types of things that happen there, right? Language classes, etc. And so kind of like a YMCA type of deal, right? And so I took that idea and the YMCA stuff and this idea of sharing and growth, right? And I was like, adults need a place where adults can come together and share amongst each other. And so it started as dance classes, and then I think Miscellaneous Bowl came to me and was like, hey, can I teach yoga and like do
Oh,
some
I remember that.
meditation stuff and stuff like that? And I was like, yeah, sure, I'm totally cool with that, right? Because I didn't really foresee the Faceless growing into what it's grown into,
Uh-huh.
right? There was a point, I can't tell you exactly where the point where I was like, oh wow, this is going to become something much bigger,
Bigger
right?
than expected.
We were doing like 2 classes a month, and then it went to 4 classes a month every Saturday, right? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we've got 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Holy cow, it just kept growing. People kept coming to me like, hey, can I share this? I'd like to share this with the community. And it just kind of grew, and I kind of decided, I think adults need a place where they can share and they can grow, and there's so many talented people within the VR space, especially, right? Because it's a conglomeration of everybody and the people in the world, right? And so everyone has talents and things that they bring with them, right? We've had someone that was on their doctorate for sociology, that taught sociology classes as a student professor, right, in university, that came and was like, "Hey, I'd like to share sociology classes," right? And I'm like, "Sure." And so we've had people teach sociology. We've had so many different things. So
I think that was the odd
ultimately,
one out of all the classes, to be honest. I was surprised about that one.
yeah. We got esoterics. We have someone that's been talking about bringing philosophy classes that has a doctorate in
Ooh.
philosophy that's been a college professor in philosophy that's come to me and expressed interest in sharing that. Ultimately, I like the idea that it allows the idea is that it allows people to come and find things that they're passionate about or discover new passions that they can take with them and learn and grow in themselves, right? And also allows people to find different communities. And so, I think somewhere along the lines, and I think we've always kind of been this, but it's a home. It's a home for people, or a place for people to find their home, like their community. So I like to think of it as family, and we started this hashtag not a cult campaign for a while because when people hear the word the Faceless, and then we had
They think we're a
our
cult.
logo had like a cloaked figure, and the cloaked figure had a purpose, right? Like to hide the face and make it more about individuality, right? And it's about knowledge and all that stuff, but unfortunately, some people were like, "Oh, Illuminati." They started thinking Illuminati.
Oh,
They
God,
started
it's a
thinking all these
cult.
other crazy things.
I
Right?
went in a different direction, but
Yeah. And so
Nope.
with all this stuff, I was like, "Well, fuck. What do we do as far as that?" I was like, "We could just do a hashtag not a cult, and turn it into this big joke."
Yeah.
And then we've done rebranding since, because I realized that the original Faceless logo that was in like maroons and blacks and darker colors and stuff, and it seemed slightly more menacing, and so we paid an amazing artist, Panda, to rebrand, and our logos are now in like violet, like purplish blue, with like this light sky blue color and stuff to make it very more approachable. But sadly, we still haven't gotten away from people still see it and think that it's a cult, right? And so it's kind of just become a running gag, right? Even our
We are not a
booths that we set
cult.
up at PJKT, we have a booth, and we got a crystal ball, and on that we have our join group button, and our group join button says join our cult, and then cult is crossed out and it says group above it. It's just become a running joke. I realize that there are cults probably in VR. I'm sure there are.
Oh,
There's
there
plenty
is.
of cultish people, but
We're not one of them. We swear. It's just a joke.
yeah, it's completely a joke. But I do like to think of us as family, which can sound cultish, but like,
Chosen
think-
family.
yeah, exactly. To me, growing up, I've learned that your chosen family is much stronger bond than like it comes back to the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, right? Meaning
Yeah.
that like the family you choose is always going to be stronger than the family you're born into, right?
I do have a question because you're saying that technically you see it as a family, not a cult, obviously. But I would like to say, or I'd like to ask, is it a place where you help push people out of their comfort zones? Because even if people do see it as a family thing, like whether it's a safe space and everything, some people don't actually get out their comfort zones as well. But I don't know if you see, like, if your family, like, if your group helps people get out their comfort zones. I guess.
Oh yeah.
But
that's been one of the blessings of it, and one of the things that keeps me pushing. I mean, like I had told you guys earlier, right? I there's been weeks I put in 130 hours, right, towards back end and other stuff with the group, right? Um, which is a lot. And if I see people grow every day, and that's the beautiful thing about it, right? We have people that have gone from being full on mutes, not talking ever, to opening their mic and singing in vocal classes or in karaoke night, right? So mutes that became unmuted. We have people that never danced that became dancers. People are constantly pushing the boundaries of their comfort zone, which is a very beautiful thing, and growing in ways that they never realized they would, right? And some people come in and maybe they're alcohol. We've had some people that were alcoholics that are no longer alcoholics, right? Like, I feel it's something inherent. You don't have to necessarily push people specifically, like, I'm gonna push you, you're gonna do this, right? Offering, I feel like offering the things, what ends up happening is people discover, they join off a friend or whatever into a thing, and they're like, what is this, right? And then when they start listening, they're like, oh, that's interesting, I never thought that something like that, excuse me, would be in VR, right? So for instance, we did the Vrchat group fair weeks and weeks ago, and on the Sunday we brought in one of my good friends, Richie Rich, which is older locker that's been locking since like 1978.
The Richie Rich. Oh, I missed that.
And so Richie Rich came in, and he's been locking since 1978 and DJing since like 1979, DJ'd all over the world and all this stuff, right? And in the 90s, he was approached for different big things and stuff, and he always had a passion for helping people, and he wanted to be like a counselor, like a psychologist counselor type thing, right? So he ended up pursuing that, right, and getting into the mental health field and everything. And so we had him in, and he did a Q&A, but instead of talking about dance or that type of stuff, right, he actually ended up taking Q&As about mental health stuff, right? Like, how do I deal with this? Or I've been dealing with this, like, and he did that and provided different techniques and things and tools people could use to be their own, as he liked to call it, become their own mental health counselor, right? Offering the tools for them to help themselves. And people had breakthroughs. There were people that had been dealing with certain things that had breakthrough. You could see those breakthrough moments, and that's a beautiful thing to be able to see, right? But it's, one of the people that had a breakthrough, they came in and they didn't even know what they came into, right? And then they heard some things and they're like, oh, this is interesting. And then they end up having a breakthrough, right? And I think that's the beautiful thing about having an open source type of place, right, where people can come in and it's free. And we're working on our our nonprofit status right now. So we are going to become a full-on nonprofit charitable organization. We already are technically, right? But we're going to be getting our federal status as a nonprofit and everything.
Yeah!
But it's become this place where people stumble upon it, right? That maybe they go to clubs all the time or whatever, and then they come in, they're like, "Ooh, this is different," and they find something they're passionate about. It could be dance, it could be mental health, it could be Blender, it could be coding, could be one of the many things, right? We've had conversations like with our esoterics class where people explore their personal spirituality, right? Esoterics being just the spirituality of you, right? So it could be anything. I feel like, and it's funny because even our mental health thing ended up delving into this, right? Like, there's aspects of yourself that you got to work on, right? You got mind, body, and spirit. All of those are very important, and if one of those things is not focus on, like, all things have to be treated equal. If you focus too much on body and not enough on mind and spirit, you suffer, right? And the same for everything else, right? And so spirit is a very important thing. And some people see spirituality, oh, it's got to be a religion. Your spirituality could be anything. It could be nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your spirituality is just your connection to the things greater than you, right? Your connection to the earth, to the universe, to whatever, right? Whatever that means to you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so people being able to come and stumble upon things that help them grow, I think, has been a very beautiful thing. Just watching everybody, it's so crazy, and the group continues to grow so much. And like we were saying earlier, I remember when the group was like 60 people and I knew everybody. Now I look and I'm like, who is this person?
Who are
Who the hell are
you?
you?
Who are you people?
And it's just beautiful to see all the growth and people developing their families and being able to find a positive space, right? And that's the key, right? Is being able to provide people a positive, safe environment where they can come in and learn more about themselves and grow.
Mm-hmm.
I've had some people tell me that, you know, before they came to the Faceless, and this is crazy. I don't know how true it is or how not true it is. I just know that it's their personal story and their journey, right? And they told me that, look, before the Faceless, like, they were kind of agoraphobes, right? And now they've started going out into the real world and experiencing the dance culture in the real world, or experiencing this, or going and finding hobbies that they enjoy in the real world because they first were introduced to those hobbies in VR. And that's such a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Being super long-winded.
No,
Cut me off.
okay.
Feel free to cut me off.
I mean, it's lore, right? We're getting the
lore.
lore that
I
everyone
just feel very
needed.
educated right now.
I'm absorbing
Chris with
all
these
the
giant lore conversations.
I'm sorry to go for the deep questions. But yeah, Green and Kai, you can shoot. Go ahead.
What's
Me-
the meaning of life and the universe and
Kai.
everything in it? 42.
Actually, it's 27. Kai's here like, welcome in, me. How's your day, Chris? What is life?
Because like I was gonna talk about like what was it? Because I know a few of my friends got influenced by
Family
Step
from
Up,
Fast and
right?
Furious.
And I was gonna ask stuff like that, and Chris here is like, we need to know origin story right now. We need to go through the.
We'll shoot now.
I love that. Family from Fast and Furious. Family.
I'm
Did you
lightheaded.
say family?
Oh no.
It's been a long day.
No!
So then
Oh my
God.
I did have a question because like you were talking about how dancers from Step Up, and a lot of my friends were influenced by like Step Up to start dancing, right?
Mhm.
So do you think movies like that influenced a lot of people to start dancing when you were watching it from that scene? Like, did you see an influx of people
Yeah.
like coming in?
Oh, of course. Of course. You know, there's different things that have influenced different generations of dancers, especially, right? Like if you look at the 1980s, certain films influence dance, right? Whether
Mhm.
it's the movie Breakin', right? Or Flashdance, or there's a bunch of other movies, right? Like, so in the generations, there's always like a movie that comes out, right? Because movies are part of culture, and dance is part of culture, and language and music is part of culture, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right, so it's always like a cycle. Step Up 3D, I think, came out in what, 2000 and
It's like 2000 something.
9, 10, somewhere in there, right? That started influencing a lot of dancers, and I think that influenced a lot of people to get into even robotics, right? Like they saw my homie Chad and Chad doing the robot and stuff, and that influenced them, right? Um,
I love robotics.
Like, so then, what about the was it? Ah, damn it. I know it was a whole bunch of my friends loved this dance group, Jabberwockies.
Yeah, the Jabberwockies. So the Jabberwockies, really good guys. You know, I know the original Jabberwockies, like that were in the
Really?
things, right? Like, but you know, the Jabberwockies has grown so much, and they got that Las Vegas show, and so many different people have come in, and it's a beautiful thing. But the Jabberwockies, yes, you know, they ended up in the Step Up movies, and before the Step Up movies, they had, you know, there was the was it the America's Best Dance Crew? I think
I
they were in.
think so, right?
Um, but the Jabberwockies, you know, you had the idea of them all wearing the mask and all that stuff, right?
Hmm.
That the mask, the gloves, all that stuff. You know, it's beautiful because it makes them a group, and you don't focus on any one individual, right? But you focus
Hmm.
on the group and the group's movements. But the funny thing about that is the Jabberwockies were heavily influenced from the Bay Area styles, Boogaloo, Robot, and Strutting. So, for instance, I'm sure Chris will remember Plick Plock that came in, right? Plick
Oh yeah,
Plock
I
was
love
one of
Click
the
Block.
inspirations of the Jabberwockies, and you had PT 3000 Pop Tart stuff and all the different groups, right, from the Bay, and so that influenced the Jabberwockies. And if you look at the old BRS groups, the old Bay Area robot strutting groups and stuff, you'll actually see the influence there, right?
Hmm.
Between that and hip hop dance, and then that culture of the group dancing and stuff. So that's yeah, and they influenced a whole new generation of people into that type of style and performance. Very beautiful thing.
Hmm.
So you
So
had Jabberwockies, you had I think at the time, even with the Jabberwockies, you had the you know MTV pushing America's Best Dance Crew, and you had the So You Think You Could Dance, and you
yeah.
had all these shows that were really pushing a lot of street dance and dance in general.
I love So You Think You Can Dance. I used to watch that with my family all the time.
So yeah, that was a really good show. Really good show. I've there's
It
quite a
allowed me to
few
see different
friend groups
styles.
that made their way through, right? So even the Chicago Footwork Kings, another group. My friend Charles from Chicago Footwork Kings. Um, so they pushed Chicago footwork out there, right? And so there's a lot of different dance styles and groups that really pushed a lot of different types of styles to prominence through a lot of those types of shows. I feel like media really helped to push a lot of stuff back then. And there's been a lot of growth within the scene and personal dance and stuff because of that. And it's such a beautiful thing to see, for
Hmm.
sure.
Hmm. So then I have another question because like it was looking back at it, it was controversial, not yet not controversial. Was it was called sea walking, right? I think that's what it was called. Because like you were
Crip
talking about,
walking?
yeah, because you were talking about
Oh, crip
footwork.
walking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you know, so when you talk, so, you know, I'm not going to talk too much about that. That's not really my culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
Crip
Mm-hmm.
walking comes from you know the Crips, right? And then you had the Bloods had their own thing, and
Yeah.
different gangs had their own thing. I personally think that when you're you know when you're dealing with a cultural thing like that,
Yeah.
right? I think you gotta be very careful with that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Understand that it has a culture of its own. It has a language of its own because dance is language. It is a
Yeah.
language. It is a physical language.
Yes.
You gotta be very careful with that type of stuff. Now, what a lot of people nowadays call sea walking, they're actually combining a bunch of different things, right?
Okay.
Um, so a lot of people when I see them, you know, and it's the same with even shuffling, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
shuffling's the same thing. If you look at new school shuffling, they got cutting shapes in there. They got all sorts of other stuff. They got stuff influenced by sea walking, crip walking. Um, you know, or even clown walking, right? There's all sorts of stuff that gets implemented and mixed and matched in there. But when you're starting to cut shapes and stuff like that, you gotta be very careful because that stuff was used to mark gang territory, right?
Yeah.
Like and spell out the name of your set and all that stuff. It's the same with like people that get into finger tutting. You gotta be very careful with finger tutting, right, and where you're doing it and stuff like that, because someone could see it as you're possibly doing gang signs.
Yeah.
And so you gotta be very careful with that type of culture. Crip walking is very beautiful. Same with clown walking and all that stuff, right? It's really cool. Now, if you're just looking at it as heel toe and doing different heel toe stuff, it's one thing, right? But, it's an interesting phenomenon. I will say that seeing things that were developed by certain gangs to rep their sets and stuff be utilized by people from suburban towns and stuff for whole different things. It's a very interesting interesting phenomenon.
Because like I think at one point, my friends from back in high school, they started off with crip walking, and we didn't know any of that, right? We didn't. Well, I don't know if they knew, but I definitely didn't know. And then they all started learning shuffling after that. So then, what would be like the difference between the two? Because that kind of like piqued my interest.
Yeah, so if you're looking at new school shuffling is a combination of a bunch of stuff, right? Like, we can go back to the Running Man and the original Running Man from like the 1980s, right? Which was used in hip hop dance and a bunch of other stuff, right? But the Running Man is its own thing. And then, you have the Melbourne Shuffle and the Malaysian Shuffle. Melbourne Shuffle, when I think of shuffling, I'm thinking of like Malaysian style shuffling or Melbourne Shuffle style shuffling, not necessarily when shuffling started to grab things from everybody and turn into this like and not that look, dance is beautiful in general, and I love dance of all styles, right? This isn't me saying anything negative about anybody, right? I want to make that clear. I'm not talking negatively about excuse me, these new school YouTubers, right? And the girls doing the shuffling and cutting shapes and Running Man and all that stuff. But I look at dance culturally from more of like an anthropological type of look, right? And I think that it's very important to respect culture when you're utilizing something, and recognize that things come from culture, right? It'd be the same as if you're going to wear a Mexican sombrero or something like that, right? You need to respect culture when you're going to utilize something from someone's culture.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you're going to do pop-in or any of these types of things, understand that it comes from a culture, and we need to make sure that we're respecting that culture that the things come from, right? And that's back even to the sea walking thing, right? That's a particular culture, right?
Yeah.
And so we have to look at things from that cultural perspective. New school shuffling it has separated itself a little bit from some of the culture, but I will say, if you want to look at shuffling, look at Melbourne Shuffle.
Okay.
That's the old school rave scene, because shuffling, Melbourne Shuffle is like a rave dance, like techno and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right? Like that type of stuff. Same with jump style. You got
I
jump
was gonna
style,
say,
which
is
like
it
a
similar to
hardcore
jump style?
style. So jump style, funny enough, if you want to see jump style, you got to look at the Russians for jump style.
Really?
Oh yeah, jump style took off in Russia.
They can throw down.
Like I've seen those on TikTok, and I'm like, dude, I kind of want to learn how to do that. That seems so interesting.
Yeah. Well, jump style is insane. But it's it's a cultural thing, right? And so when you look at these dances, they started with a particular type of music. And so if you want to learn something, to me, it's very important. Just like I said in the thing, right? You learn the box, right? Until that box dissolves, and then you can express it, right? So look, learn popping with the different styles of music, and then and kind of where it came from and stuff, and then build on that, right? And that to me, that's the important part, right? Because then we build on it and we add to the culture of that thing and help the culture of that thing to grow with the current culture, right? And to continue, rather than trying to cut it off and be like, this is a new thing now. I think that is disrespectful to the culture that the thing came from. We had to recognize that.
Like, understand that it's not a new thing, but it came from somewhere.
Exactly. It came from somewhere, and then you add your thing to it, right? It's a respect thing. You got to respect those that came before. Who was it that said, "I'm only here because we stood on the shoulder of giants," or something like that, right? I forget who that was, but like,
Ford.
Ford? Yeah, probably.
No, I forgot. Sorry.
Yeah, it was Ford or someone. I don't know, but the idea is, right, like,
Yeah.
nothing in life ever comes from nothing.
Yeah.
Something is always inspired by that which came before. Everything in life is a remix. And we
No,
just
I never-
remix it using our own culture and identity and things that we grew up with.
Totally. Green lost the ladder in the game now.
I was not paying attention to the game, not gonna lie. I turned my
Because he always
brain off.
manages to somehow glitch something in this game.
I may or may not have sent the ladder outside the map and I can't get it back. Please send home.
So then what was it? There was a thing, finger tutting, right? Because I'm just going through my high school, like, all the things that I've gone through and thinking about in high school now. Like, one of them was, like, finger tutting, right? So then, how did that evolve? Because, like, now that I see it, I'm just like, how the fuck what?
Finger tutting has a whole thing as well, right? Because finger tutting, you got to go back to original tutting and all that stuff, right? And then how and where it started breaking down into the smaller shapes and stuff. And even in finger tutting, there's different things, right? Whether we're talking about the shapes or whether liquid and all the other things, right? So with finger tutting, you got quite a few people that were involved in the growth of finger tutting, but we've brought it all the way back to like Mr. Ree, and a lot of those people, and into one of my homies, Tiny Love, that does different shapes and stuff, and we can call digits. We can talk about digits, but I think one of the things that we have to acknowledge if we're talking about finger tutting as well. Hold on. Finger dance.
Like, would it go back to, like, well,
19.
would it also, what am I trying to say? Gloving, that was what I was trying to
Gloving,
say.
yes.
Yeah. So did...
So that's a lot of that's rave culture.
Oh, okay.
But again, I was gonna say, if you're gonna go on this, you have to recognize Greg Irwin. Greg Irwin has a thing called Finger Fitness that came out in 1990. And it was on like NBC and all the news and all that stuff. And so you have to recognize Greg Irwin and Greg Irwin's finger fitness techniques and all that stuff, and look at how that affected, right? Digits and all the finger styles that came through the years, and then there's different cultural aspects and places, right? Provided different things into it, right? So my homie Function, or is it Function? Yeah, I believe his name was Function. So there's quite a few people that have provided into that. That's a whole other topic. Whole other topic. We could have hours long conversations on just that alone. Um, but Greg Irwin, I would say, if you want to look into to like, because this is, to me, it's this, right? Look, the who created, right, XYZ, or did this, or was the first to do this. Those are interesting conversations, and I believe everyone deserves recognition.
Mhm.
Um, from an anthropological standpoint or a historical standpoint, I think one of the most important questions that anyone can ever ask is not what did you create, or what did you know what I mean, but it's more what inspired you, right? Because
Mhm.
if we get the questions, or we get the answers to what inspired you, right,
Uh-huh.
and then we ask that throughout the generations, you'll see that, oh, this person inspired this person inspired this person, and you can watch the tree grow, right? But asking what inspired allows you to look at where did that stuff come from, right? So, for instance,
Okay.
when talking with like a lot of the OGs, like, so people that do ticking and dime stops and animation, we can go back to claymation type movies like Ray Harryhausen films, right?
Oh,
We can
yeah.
also go back to like I don't know if you remember the movie Chitty Chitty Bang Bang from like 1967ish or something like that, 66.
Yes.
There's the doll on the music box, right? Um,
Mhm.
and the girl's doing the da, 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 tick 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 tick, right? And she's like animating herself, and then you've got the mime dance that Dick Van Dyke does, right? With the strings attached to him to where you can like hit these really crazy poses, which is always so cool to see that in the dance. But knowing that, like, a lot of the OGs, quote unquote, from the 70s, when they were kids in the 60s, saw these movies, and these movies inspired them to take that and utilize that within what they were doing, listening to the music that they were listening to, and
Mhm.
combining, whether it was locking or other stuff that they were doing, robots and stuff, into what they did, right? Um, Movies and TV shows and different things like that inspire what you do, especially stuff that you watch as a kid, right?
Yeah.
But all these dances were created by kids having fun and experimenting and playing around, right? Which is why I say that's the most important thing in what you do, right? Because you're creating what we do today is creating the history of what people will be doing in the future.
I've never thought of it like that. God damn. Okay. I like that. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, all the movies inspire everything, and it's the backslide, for instance, that Michael Jackson did. How many people were inspired by the backslide to get into dance? That magic of the backslide that Michael Jackson did, when he first did it on television, which he wasn't the first one to ever do the backslide, by the way, mind you. But when Michael Jackson did it in 1983,
Mhm.
1983. In concert, right? That was the first time that it was televised in the U.S. and the first time a lot of people had ever seen the backslide when he did that in that, right? Um, it ended
Mhm.
up getting called the moonwalk.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
The moonwalk is a whole different thing. The moonwalk is a walk where it's a more of a bouncy animated walk where you look like you're running without gravity on the moon. So every time you go to run, you're kind of bounding upwards, right? Because there's no gravity, right? That's what
Yeah.
the moonwalk actually is in terms of techniques, because that comes from the poppers and that whole culture. The backslide or sliding is where you look like you're sliding while you're walking, whether it's a forward slide, backslide, side slide, right? And then you got your glides as well, right?
Mhm.
Um, and so you've got your slides, glides, and moonwalk. Um, but that said, you know, Michael Jackson was very popular, and so when Michael Jackson called it a moonwalk, you know, everyone calls it the moonwalk because he was bigger. But the backslide was first televised on Top of the Pops in the UK over a year before Michael Jackson ever did it on Shalimar by Jeffrey Daniels. That was the first time it was ever televised, as far as I'm aware. So it wasn't even Michael Jackson that did it. It was a whole different person. Michael Jackson was taught that move. Michael Jackson was really into street dance, really into Bay Area dances and pop-in and all the other things. Which is how he got connected to even, you know, someone that I'm blessed to be able to call a big brother to me. You know what I mean? Pop and Pete. You know, but all these guys got connected, you know, to Jackson. Even, you know, before Jackson passed away, a good friend of mine, David Elsewhere, was working with Jackson on some new types of glides and movements for footwork and stuff. And so Jackson was an amazing performer and always trying to push himself to better his performance. And he took everything he did seriously and would put in all sorts of work to have everything down to the point where you don't have to think anymore. And that's why we learned the box, right? We practice all the techniques to the point where you don't have to think about the techniques. It becomes muscle memory. And at that point that it becomes muscle memory, in my statement of like we do that so then that way the spirit is free to forget. The idea of that is because all that stuff becomes muscle memory. You don't have to think about words to talk, right? But once you learn enough words, now I can express myself better, right? And now that I can express myself better, I don't have to think about the words anymore. I can just think about the idea that I'm trying to get across and express it. And that's what you should, you know, with dance, you learn all the techniques to the point where now I have a vocabulary. Now I got to say something. And so that's what Jackson would do, right? Is learn all the techniques down to the point where you don't have to think about it, and then you can express yourself.
Gotcha. It's very interesting because like it always comes back to you're standing on the shoulders of giants, right? Which I think I've always had that mentality, especially for like not only of work related stuff, but like whatever I do outside of work, because there's always somebody that's done it before. You just gotta figure out how and why so that you can make it your own.
Yeah. And then when you start doing something that's different because you're bringing your own experience or your own stuff into it, right? Eventually someone will see you doing that thing and they'll be like, "Oh." And then they take that and now you've helped to add something to it, and then they add something to it. You know what I mean? That's purely from them, right? Like if I have an experience, so for instance, you know, outside of dance and all this other stuff, right? Like I worked within the intel industry in the military and government. And like I did very particular, I can't talk too much about this. Some people are very loose tongued about this type of stuff, but I did things within coding and codes and signals and stuff like that. And because of my experience within what I did within signals and coding and all that stuff, when I started going to school for electrical engineering, I had certain understandings from that other field that allowed me to look at things within this new field in a different way, because I could apply certain things from this to this new field and be like, oh, we could do this new thing that this new field might not understand because they're not connected to this other field, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Coincidentally enough, Dr. Green also went into electrical engineering as well at one point before he became a doctor.
Okay.
Unfortunately, yes.
Unfortunately.
I'm sorry. Yeah, electrical. Hello. Like, what kind of idiot does that?
So it's like since you've done electrical engineering, the idea of quote unquote free energy.
Oh God.
There's no such thing as free energy. However, I will say this: just because something sounds magical to some doesn't mean that it's magical, right? So there is radio energy or radioactive energy, right, in the
Yes.
electromagnetic frequency spectrum, and you can use that energy as long as you can harness that, like pull that energy in. That energy can be utilized because all energy can't be created
No
or
destroyed. That's the
destroyed,
first. Oh,
but
yeah.
it can be
It can be
fuck me.
harnessed or converted to
Exactly.
different ways.
Exactly. And so, there's all sorts of energy on the electromagnetic frequency spectrum, and you can capture the EMF spectrum to utilize as energy. Now,
Yeah.
you know, if there's ways
Technically,
to do that in a very efficient way that can and so so for instance, when I went to certain things, I was discussing certain things as far as utilizing different frequency spectrum that's out there to power low voltage devices, right?
yeah.
And I remember my teacher was like, "That's not possible." I'm like, "Well, no, it's not that it's not. It's totally possible."
It's just not done yet. So that's why most people say it's not possible. But
Yeah,
once it's done, then Ooga Booga is just now it's possible for some reason.
it's like, "Oh my gosh, it's magic!" Right?
Oh my
It's
God,
like
black
people that don't
magic.
understand how computers work, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just a bunch of gnomes inside the computer doing magical elf things, right?
Yeah.
And I
Magical.
get the same. Um, so like and that's the thing, right? And so it's I hate the idea of quote unquote free energy. Now, if you're talking about those weird like energy things that supposedly bypass the laws of physics and stuff, like that's a whole other thing. But
No, we
when
don't
you're
talk
talking
about
about
that.
Nikola Tesla and some of Nikola Tesla's ideas, there's a lot of people that misunderstand some of the stuff that he was saying. Um,
About free energy.
mhm.
Yes.
And
Um,
so,
like people don't understand the concept of energy because no matter what, energy is always going to be lost.
yes.
we're in a what you call a closed system,
Hmm.
and basically any matter inside the system will always be transferred no matter what. That's just basic laws of physics.
Hmm.
So like, let's say you have a motor hooked up to another motor. Cool, free
Hmm.
energy, like in your mind, it's like, oh yeah, a motor can crank another motor. But then you have the problem of heat, because heat is
Hmm.
anything you do is basically a form of energy.
Hmm.
And so
Exactly.
so basically you lose energy over time.
Mhm.
Well, yeah,
So
one and
technically,
electrons aren't stuck on one thing, right? So like when you're dealing with throwing electrons through even a computer system and along wires, those electrons are escaping those wires. There are electrons that are
yes.
so that
Um,
that's
if I remember, because no matter what, it's always energized. Everything you touch is like everything you are, everything we all are, basically matter. So atoms will always convert to atoms.
hmm
You touch your table, your body heat will transfer. That's called equilibrium. No matter what, you're either gaining or losing energy. You're never in a quote unquote energy stable environment, if that makes sense.
no, you're always in flux. Everything's in flux. Well, and the other crazy thing about atoms don't actually have the structure that we believe atoms to have. They only have that
Yes.
structure when they're measured. Um, but that's you're getting into the crazy
Yeah.
quantum side of things and that. But
Hey, don't worry, I'm a quantum physicist. I got you.
What
Oh
Green?
God.
What aren't you at this
Yeah,
point?
Green's
Sorry,
like the jack of all trades. He
I,
likes to try
I,
everything.
I kid you not. I did engineering. Liked physics. I mostly liked physics. Had to teach lecture. Then was like, oh, space. Then somehow didn't go to astronomy. By the way, immediately went to quantum.
Huh?
Like my brain went, nah, space, cool. but why space? So quantum, and then went to all into Schrödinger's formulas, goes all into those stupid formulas, and then at one point, I showed Chris this. There's a point where I had like formulas on papers at a cafe.
Yeah.
Because I figured something out, but then I just left it there, and then I don't know. My brain goes brr, and I'd like to do what my brain tells me to do.
It just stops, drops, and everything.
Through the power of ADHD and anime on our side.
And a single Oreo, we got this.
With
Just a single Oreo?
Just a single Oreo.
Okay.
So I think we have time for our last. We usually do this thing where we have one last question. So this question is, what lesson took you the longest to unlearn?
Ooh. That's a good one.
Gosh, this whole thing has been like the most deep questions. What question took you the longest to unlearn?
Anime protagonists where it's like they look so unsilly, but when
I like
when
the
they're
deep
serious,
questions. I'm sorry.
This is it.
We
This is the
The
moment.
longest to unlearn. I'm gonna be quite real with you. I believe life is about unlearning lessons more than learning them, and the unlearning of lessons is learning. And that sounds freaking crazy, and a roundabout
No,
way
I
of
had
saying
to think
things,
about
but
like, you know what, you're right.
but literally most things in life is about unlearning things that we've learned. A lot of times, I'd say probably, and see it's crazy because I consider this learning more than I consider it unlearning. but very merry on birthday. So in unlearning something, you are learning something. By the way, there is no negative. It's still a forward progression, right? It's not a reversal. I will say that learning that a lot of the things that you've learned aren't necessarily the most accurate, and sometimes you've got to reframe the way that you think about the things. Has been an amazing process, and it's a continual process. You never fully unlearn everything or anything. It's just about learning that sometimes we have to be able to take a step back and try to be more open-minded about the way that we look at things.
I think that's a good question, because like I know for me, I guess it is in a sense to where you're unlearning to relearn things, right? In your case, because like it's always something I have to forget to learn something else.
So my dad told me a long time ago, you never learn anything from doing it right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the process of learning is by making mistakes. And so the quote unquote idea of unlearning something isn't necessarily, if you approach things from the fact that you're just constantly learning, it's not necessarily that you're ever unlearning. It's that you're learning ways in which something doesn't work, or ways that is not necessarily the most accurate interpretation of the thing, and you're learning better ways to interpret the data.
Gotcha. Anything from the other two?
I'm still thinking about it. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, that was a very deep question. Like, shit.
so
Look,
I gotta
look.
go through my memories now.
Look, I mean, Chris, you went with like the deep
You went-
lore. You went
there.
with deep lore.
I'm sorry.
That's a very deep question. Why are you?
I love how no matter what, I'm being caught in the stray here. Like I've done nothing. I'm on your side the entire time.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh shit. Damn. Like, I'm stumped now. What did I have to unlearn? Oh yeah, I had to. Apparently, the wiener dog wants to chime in too.
it wants to show, wants to tell what it's unlearned.
Unlearn not to throw ball in corner. Bonga bonga.
I had to unlearn.
This really
Oh.
stumped Chris.
Yeah, It's because I had so much life experience, and I'm like, God, which one?
Which
Okay.
one?
Alright.
I can't really think of remember one right now, so I'm just gonna say I have to like unlearn to be let's see, to please try and please everybody just to keep the peace, so I can put my own happiness first. Does that count?
Anything counts, to be honest.
Okay.
I mean, technically, like Blind said, isn't we make mistakes and redoing said thing, basically unlearning and relearning over and over again?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, like let's say you cook something and you basically added the wrong thing. You basically gonna unlearn that and relearn that to learn basically the right way, in a way.
Yeah.
Mm.
And you've also learned that that thing doesn't work.
Yeah.
Many
And you
times
unlearn that
over.
and relearn that again. It's a small town.
I think who was it? Was it Ben Franklin or no? The one that was like, oh well, you know, they said that like they learned 100 and something or hundreds of ways that the light bulb doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
So, I suppose it's the way that you frame it, right?
Yeah.
Because you can frame it as learning or unlearning. I like to think of things more as a forward progression.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How I see it, it is forward progression, but how I see it is also like a hill as well with obstacles.
Mhm.
Because yes, it is forward progression, but eventually you have to go backwards a bit to continue going forward. It's not constantly forward. Unless you talk about time, then that's a different story and a can of worms to open. But yeah, so you do need to go backwards to go forwards as well. That's how I see it.
No, I think that's everything.
Yeah.
So I guess we could start wrapping up now.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy.
Thank you, Blind, for joining us. Is there anything you want to plug before we end this?
Yeah, check us out. Discord.gg/thefaceless or templevr.org. Yeah, for sure.
Oh my god! Wait, Kai, can I abuse your mods real fast?
Why are you... Hello? Why are you abusing my mods?
Put the link in the chat.
A lot of it will be in the description of this VOD, so don't worry. You can always come
hell yeah.
back there. That will be there. If not, we will put it there. So please go check them out. Anyways, thank you all for joining, and thank you, Blind, for joining us. Hope everyone
thank you for making
has
time.
a good afternoon and a very good and amazing weekend. We will see you all laters. Goodbye.